Good evening. I wanted to provide an update on my efforts to protect the people of the city of St. Louis and of the state of Missouri, my efforts to restore the rule of law and find justice for victims, and my efforts to remove the Circuit Attorney of the city of St. Louis. On February 22nd of this year, I called on the Circuit Attorney to resign or face removal proceedings. Those proceedings are authorized by statute enacted by the people's elected representatives. My call for her to resign was echoed by state and community leaders across a spectrum of political affiliations and backgrounds. The Circuit Attorney failed to resign by the deadline, and my office took prompt action by filing a writ of quo warranto in order to remove her from office. On March 21st of this year, my office filed an amended petition consisting of 121 pages based on a review of tens of thousands of documents, interviews with numerous witnesses, and consideration of additional evidence that came to light after the initial suit was filed. The amended petition expands the scope and contours of the allegations against the Circuit Attorney and lead to the inexorable conclusion that she is unlawfully refusing to do her job. She is not properly initiating new cases referred to her by the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department. She is failing to move the cases she has filed forward to disposition, and she's failing to inform and confer with victims, which is her statutory, constitutional, and moral obligation. Under state statute, the Circuit Attorney is responsible for the conduct and performance of her office. Since taking over, she has blamed the media, she has blamed the police, she has blamed the General Assembly, she has blamed the court, she has blamed her own staff, and most recently, she has blamed me. She is responsible for her toxic work environment. She is responsible for her refusal to do her job. Her failures are the result of her behavior, and this removal proceeding is the result of her decisions and her inaction. Her unlawful refusal to do her job has resulted in violent offenders on the street who continue to make this community and this region less safe, and they create additional victims of crime. It is necessary now for the state to step in. The hearing that occurred today was the first opportunity for my office to appear in court and move this removal process forward. We asked the court to order discovery. Additionally, we asked the court to set a trial date. We now have a trial date from Judge Torbitsky. Our trial is set for September 25th. The court has also indicated it is interested in moving this case forward and will issue discovery orders soon. I would also like to point out that former Judge Booker Shaw, who is representing the circuit court in these proceedings, has stated in court that these judges have been placed in an untenable position and stated that, based on observation, the Circuit Attorney's office is on the brink of collapse. I would like to point out the graphs to my left and right. To my right, you'll see the graphs that appear in our amended petition. These demonstrate in numerical data the downward trend line of the performance of her office in both felonies and misdemeanors. The graph to my left compares the number of crimes reported by the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department with cases her office actually files. This data, at least in part, demonstrates her unlawful refusal to do her job. But it's about more than the numbers, because there are victims who are suffering based on these numbers. With that, I'll open it up for questions.
Okay. So with the most recent incident that happened when an attorney from her office failed to show up to court and a judge therefore filed trying to hold her in contempt, what's your reaction to that? Will that play into your case?
Yeah, it's disturbing. This was a murder trial. This was not set for a counsel status hearing or some kind of update hearing. It was set for a trial, and she didn't even show up to court. So now a victim suffers. And this is yet one more instance in a pattern of behavior as represented in these numbers.
In court, the attorneys for the Circuit Attorney's Office said that of the thousands of cases, that there were roughly 40 still wasn't that level of proof brought, that there was beyond negligence attached to Gardner's office or her behavior. How do you answer that?
The numbers demonstrate that she's unlawfully refusing to do her job, and that's what these numbers demonstrate.
We've heard Gardner make the claim before, she made it in her filing, she said it, that you're an unelected attorney general trying to remove an elected prosecutor from office. Why do you think this is the appropriate way to do it as opposed to leaving it up to the will of the voters?
Well, because numerous elected officials have also weighed in and said that it's time for the circuit attorney to go and the rule of law and justice for victims to be restored. But I would also point out that we're using the mechanism provided in statute by the people's elected representatives.
The circuit attorney today, her response includes sort of an assertion that your office is not interested in reducing crime because you're not partnering with her to invest in a community that needs more support and investments. What do you respond?
The state of Missouri has invested and will continue to invest in crime prevention across the region. That is a distraction from the fact that she's not doing her job. She doesn't show up on trial dates when there are murder trials set for trial. She's responsible for criminal cases in the city of St. Louis, and she's not doing her job.
When we were talking with State Representative Wayne Roberts, who obviously has the bill to allow for a special prosecutor in St. Louis, he mentioned to us that he doesn't think full Warrento is really a solution because Gardner could just run again in 2024, and he sees this as more than just a person in the office. What's your response to that?
Well, my response is that I am myopically focused today on restoring the rule of law and finding justice for victims in the city of St. Louis and preventing further victims. And that means this is the action that I have the legal authority to take to fulfill those principles and achieve those goals.
All right, I think that's all we have time for today. If you guys have any other questions, let me know. We can go through this.
Thank you all.